Let's get started with our first news. Jon Jones reveals why he picked Alex Pereira over Tom Aspinall. On a recent podcast with Jeff Wu, Jon Jones confirmed that he turned down the $30 million offer to fight Tom Aspinall, and he finally explained why. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. According to Jon, he's not like every other fighter who's just fighting for money. If that were the case, he would have simply taken the Tom fight. Instead, he wants to compete on the UFC White House card. That's the only reason he came out of retirement. He said the opponent doesn't really matter to him, though fighting Alex makes more sense because he has more footage to study. And even though Tom is the bigger guy, Jon believes a fight with either Alex or Tom would end the same way if he could get them to the ground. Here's what Jon had to say. "I don't think I care about what most fighters would care about. Most fighters wouldn't turn down $30 million. They just wouldn't do that. My goals are different than other people's these days. Do you fight the guy who is impressive right now, who no one is going to care about years from now? Or do you fight the guy who's going to be remembered around the world for a very long time? In Brazil, Pereira is an absolute idol right now. He literally says trauma, and people are trauma. No one even knows what it means, but he has that IT factor. That's part of the reason I wanted to compete against Pereira." Jon went on to say, "When I was 23 years old, I was fighting the top guys in the world. I'm seeing Tom Aspinall around that same age getting manhandled by people no one's ever heard of. I don't feel like I need him, especially after his last performance. Time will show. To me, it's the same fight. They both have holes in the grappling department. Fighting just to keep fighting doesn't make sense to me anymore. But being on the White House card is the reason I'm out of retirement." This situation raises tension behind the scenes, especially since Dana is known for holding grudges, and Jon previously backed out after agreeing to face Tom. With the White House card filling up fast and everyone wanting a spot, it remains to be seen how Dana will handle this moving forward. Move on to another news. Khamzat reveals sad news on his health. After Khamzat's dominant performance against Du Plessis in August, the champion spoke confidently about wanting a quick turnaround during his post-fight interview. Fans expected him back in the cage before the end of the year, but instead, we've received nothing but continuous delays regarding his return. Now, during a recent interview with Adam Zubaray, it has finally been revealed that Khamzat will be out until after Ramadan next year, which means his comeback won't happen until the middle of March. According to Khamzat, he needs to undergo a small operation on his foot, and that procedure will force him to take time away from training. He explained, "My return after Ramadan. Right now, I have a small operation on my foot. I'll step away from training for a couple of weeks, heal my wound, so we'll prepare after Ramadan. Whoever they give me, that's who we'll face." This update has caused a shift in the expectations surrounding the middleweight division, especially since Khamzat was previously positioned as the next big title factor after beating Du Plessis. With him sidelined for several months, contenders like Merab, RDR, and Baralho might have openings to climb up the rankings while the division continues to move. As discussions continued, Khamzat was also asked about a potential altercation in Qatar involving Arman and Ilia. The tension between those two has been rising, and many fans were curious whether Khamzat would step in if things got out of hand. Surprisingly, Khamzat made it clear that he would let them fight one-on-one if something happened, stating that he wouldn't interfere unless someone else jumped in. According to him, if something happens, they'll fight each other one-on-one. We will beat the ones who will try to jump in. This response fits perfectly with Khamzat's reputation for being ferocious, fearless, and always ready for real combat. He's never been the type to hold back or play the peacekeeper when things get heated. Still, it shows that he respects both fighters enough to let them handle their own business without unnecessary involvement. As for the middleweight division, the landscape now depends on how quickly Khamzat can recover, complete his operation, and return to full form. His comeback after Ramadan will be one of the biggest stories of next year, and fans are already waiting to see who the UFC will match him up with when he finally steps back into the octagon. Move on to another news. Islam Makhachev sends a message to Dana White, and it's clear he isn't satisfied with the way Dana and the UFC have been promoting fighters recently. In a new interview filmed in Russian, Islam suggested that Dana White might be experiencing a level of burnout after years of massive success leading the UFC. He believes Dana needs to return to his roots, the early days when he was hands-on, hyping up matchups, pushing narratives, and building stars from scratch. According to Islam, the UFC used to take almost any fighter and turn them into a name the whole world would recognize. But that same energy has been fading. Islam explained that Dana has become a big guy now, heavily involved in many other ventures outside the UFC, which might be part of the problem. He added that if the UFC truly wanted to make any fight big, they absolutely could, but they simply need to want it. He continued by saying that staying at the top for so long can drain anyone's motivation, and he believes Dana is already looking for people who could potentially replace him in the future. This is where things get even more interesting. The idea of replacing Dana White has always been controversial. From the outside, one person fans jokingly bring up as the only one entertaining enough to fill that position is Conor. But with his legal issues, inactivity, and unpredictable behavior, that scenario seems far from realistic. Instead, the name most people take seriously is Hunter Campbell. Many fighters already go to him directly for their bookings, and he works side by side with Dana during most major meetings. Back in 2016, when the UFC sold to WME IMG for $4 billion, a major condition was keeping Dana White as president. According to Dana himself, the new owners didn't even want to buy the UFC unless he agreed to stay in charge. But now, things have changed. TKO, the new merged entity above UFC, doesn't necessarily share that same loyalty. They are reportedly interested in eventually moving Dana out of his position and bringing in a new leadership structure. Islam's comments amplify the growing sentiment among fighters that Dana's influence is not as strong as it once was. He often avoids questions he used to answer freely, and the promotional push behind certain fighters feels weaker than before. UFC updates continue. Move on to another news. Ilia will be Islam Makhachev's toughest fight, according to many fans and now even some fighters. The biggest question right now is simple. Who truly presents the hardest matchup for Islam? Is it Ilia with his elite striking, explosive power, and ability to knock out almost anyone he touches? Or is it Shavkat Rakhmonov, the bigger, stronger, well-rounded welterweight with the size and grappling ability to potentially neutralize Islam's strengths? Well, according to Colby Covington, the answer is clear. It's Ilia. In a recent interview with Helen Yee, Colby explained exactly why he believes the undefeated champion from Georgia would give Islam the toughest test of his career. He said, "I want to see the Ilia fight." Everybody wants to see the Ilia fight. I think it needs to happen. Whether they do it at welterweight or lightweight, that fight needs to happen. We need to settle it. Colby went on to explain that one of the biggest challenges Islam would face is Ilia's low center of gravity. Being naturally shorter, Ilia becomes much harder to take down, control, and hold in place. According to Colby, Ilia will be the toughest fight because he has that low center of gravity, so he's a lot shorter, and that makes it harder to take him down and hold him down. He's got good jiu-jitsu, and I see him getting back to his feet. And of course, one of the most dangerous factors is Ilia's power. Colby added, "He's one of the biggest punchers the UFC has ever seen. I'd like to see Ilia get his hands on him and knock him out." Those are strong words, especially coming from someone who has fought some of the hardest hitters in the sport. On the flip side, Islam's supporters argue that his dominance, pressure, and championship experience would allow him to control the fight, drag it into deep waters, and eventually break Ilia. They believe that Islam's timing, his ability to chain wrestle, and the way he mixes his striking with his grappling would neutralize Ilia's power over time. Still, the excitement for this matchup is massive. Whether it happens at lightweight or welterweight, fans know this fight carries that special energy. Two champions, two undefeated streaks, two completely different styles, and one question: who truly is the better fighter? The hype continues to grow as UFC updates roll on. Move on to another news. Jorge Masvidal breaks down why he believes Arman will beat Dan Hooker tomorrow. Arman versus Hooker is shaping up to be one of the most exciting matchups on the card, and Masvidal made it clear that he's siding with his friend and teammate. According to him, Arman has the speed, sharpness, and clean striking needed to control Hooker both on the feet and on the ground. Masvidal explained that Arman is a little quicker on the feet, a little sharper, cleaner, and even though the fight will still be a dogfight, he thinks Arman's overall skill set gives him the edge. He added that Hooker is one of the toughest guys on the entire roster, and no one expects him to fold easily. But Masvidal believes Arman's wrestling and ability to mix in takedowns will create serious problems for Hooker. He predicts Arman will find moments of control on the ground, and on the feet, he'll still be effective enough to stay ahead. Masvidal also mentioned that as the fight goes deeper, Hooker will become more competitive, as he always does. But he still sees Arman winning this matchup. Jorge then shifted to the co-main event featuring Ian Gary and Belal Muhammad. He thinks this is a very tough matchup for Belal, mainly because of the drastic difference in body types and overall fighting style. Masvidal pointed out that Ian is a huge welterweight, almost looking like a small light heavyweight, while Belal has a shorter, more compact frame. That physical contrast alone makes things interesting. He explained that Belal's biggest challenge will be figuring out how to get inside on Ian without getting picked apart from the outside. Can he close the distance? Can he secure takedowns? Can he control Ian on the ground long enough to win rounds? Masvidal admitted he's a big Belal fan and usually rides with him. But this fight is different. Ian's style, what Masvidal described as very pointish, is built around staying long, landing clean shots, kicking from range, and constantly moving. That type of fight can be frustrating, especially for someone who relies on pressure like Belal. Masvidal said, "I think he's going to give Belal a lot of trouble, and while his heart is with Belal, his mind sees this as a very difficult matchup." He finished by saying he won't be surprised if Ian manages to sneak out a decision. UFC updates continue. Move on to another news. Anderson Silva versus Tyron Woodley is officially happening, and this matchup has already sent shockwaves across the combat sports world. Originally, Anderson Silva was scheduled to face Chris Weidman in a long-awaited boxing match that had fans buzzing. But due to an injury, Weidman has been forced to withdraw, leaving the event without a co-main attraction, at least until Tyron Woodley stepped in on short notice to save the fight. Now, the legendary Silva will face the former UFC welterweight champion in a 6-round bout at 195 pounds on the massive Jake Paul vs. Anthony Joshua card, making this event even bigger and more unpredictable. What makes this matchup so intriguing is the contrast in their styles, histories, and motivations. Anderson Silva, widely regarded as one of the greatest mixed martial artists ever, has already built a solid name for himself in professional boxing. His performances against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Tito Ortiz reminded everyone of his elite timing, counters, and creativity. Even now, in the later stages of his career, he brings that smooth, calculated, almost hypnotic striking style that made him a superstar in the UFC. On the other hand, Tyron Woodley comes in with explosive power, durability, and the experience of already stepping into high-pressure boxing environments, most notably against Jake Paul. While those fights didn't go his way, Woodley showed he could hang in the pocket, fire big counters, and make things gritty. He enters this matchup with something to prove, especially after the setbacks in recent years. With short notice and little time to prepare, we're likely to see a version of Woodley who's fighting with urgency, intensity, and that old championship mindset. This fight also carries emotional weight for fans who watched both legends dominate at different times. Silva was the magician of the middleweight division, a master of distance and precision. Woodley was a powerhouse welterweight, feared for his speed and knockout threat. Now, seeing them collide in a boxing ring adds a layer of nostalgia mixed with curiosity. The pacing, strategy, and rhythm will be fascinating. Silva's fluid and unpredictable angles versus Woodley's bursts of power and athleticism create a stylistic clash that could go either way, depending on who imposes their game early. And with the fight taking place on such a massive card, the spotlight will be brighter than ever. Fans are already split. Some believe Silva's experience and finesse will carry him, Others think Woodley's explosiveness and motivation will be the difference. UFC updates continue. Move on to another news, and this one has stirred up a massive wave of excitement across the MMA community. Venom has officially and quite dramatically revealed Conor's custom UFC shorts for the upcoming White House event. But the story behind this reveal actually started months earlier. Back in September, a user on X who goes by the name Red Wolf MMA stumbled upon what appeared to be Conor's custom shorts while browsing an online store in Germany. According to him, the leak happened only there, and when he tweeted about it, the reaction was pretty minimal. People probably thought it was fake, or maybe they just didn't care enough at the time, so the whole situation faded away without gaining any real traction. But now things have come full circle. The UFC's own Venom store has showcased those exact same shorts once again, and this time it's official. No rumors, no speculation, no doubts. Yesterday, fans were finally given the first proper look at the custom shorts designed for Conor's UFC White House fight. And the design is exactly what many would expect from someone with his personality and presence. The shorts feature a crisp, clean white base, decorated with $1 bills scattered across the fabric, symbolizing his trademark swagger and the larger-than-life persona he brings into every arena. Alongside the dollar graphics, the Irish flag is firmly displayed, blending national pride with that signature showmanship he's always been known for. As these images surfaced, fans began revisiting that original post from Red Wolf MMA, realizing he had seen the real thing long before anyone else believed it. It's one of those moments where the Internet Archive meets MMA hype, and this time the payoff is huge. The official reveal doesn't just confirm the leak, it amplifies it, giving fans a deeper look into Conor's mindset leading into this historic White House event. Everything about the design screams confidence, legacy, and the desire to make a statement on one of the biggest stages the sport has ever touched. This reveal also adds fuel to the ongoing conversations surrounding fighter gear, branding, and how athletes use their style to send a message before they ever throw a punch. Venom's decision to highlight these shorts now, after months of silence and speculation, feels intentional, almost like they were waiting for the perfect moment to drop something big. And now, with the White House fight on the horizon and Conor stepping into a spotlight unlike any other, these shorts have become more than just gear. They're a symbol, a headline, and a declaration all at once.